What's up YouTube, it's JackalGoldKick. Gonna do a quick video just sharing my thoughts on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, the brand new consoles and 9th generation systems. I'm a little bit late on this, but I still just want to talk about these consoles real quick and give my opinion on them. They came out in 2020 last year. When it comes to the PS5 and Series X, they're both $500 each. It seems that most games are going to be $70 now, though there's some that aren't, so I don't know if this is going to be a case-by-case basis or every game will be $70. When it comes to the PS5 and Series X, design-wise, I think they look fine for what they are. I don't mind the design, I don't mind the color or how the controllers look or how the consoles themselves look. I mean, they seem impressive graphically and frame rate-wise and visually. You know, they seem like good upgrades from 8th generation. And the backwards compatibility is pretty cool. It's definitely a lot better this time around than it was 8th generation. And it's cool that there's like the SSD stuff and speed stuff for PS5 and, you know, Game Pass and stuff on Series X. But when it comes to the rest of my thoughts on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, as it stands right now, I honestly have no interest in either system. I don't have either of them right now. Probably couldn't get them if I wanted to because, you know, the PS5 and Series X are out of stock. You can't even get either of these consoles. You can't. Like, it's ridiculous. This is like the first console generation where it's like impossible to find these consoles because there's like this global chip shortage. It's insane. It's pretty crazy that this is still a problem even in 2021. So you can't even get the consoles in the first place. They're very hard to get. Scalpers have bought them up, sold them for crazy prices. So, you know, they have the shortage issue. But, you know, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series overall, I have no interest in either of these consoles. I see no reason to get either of them. I'm just not really hyped. I don't have any hype for them or any excitement. There's nothing that's really pulling me to want to get either of those systems or even one of them. There's nothing pulling me towards them. I don't care to have either of them. And the reason is because where's the games I care about? You know, when it comes to the games so far that has released and that's coming out for the Xbox Series X and PS5, none of it's appealing to me. I think the library right now for the PS5 and Series X is pretty damn weak. There's no video games I care about. If I had a PS5 or a Series X right now, the only game I'd probably get is Resident Evil Village. And, you know, if I really wanted to play that again, I could just get the 8th gen version since it's cross-gen, so it's not really a next-gen only game anyways. And plus, I played it on Steam due to some of my brother knows that bought and gifted the game, so I was able to play it that way, so I have access to it anyways. But if I was to get a next-gen console, that's probably the only game I'd get because that's really the only game I cared about so far that came out new. But other than that, there's nothing else, you know? I mean, the only thing I'd probably use in those consoles and the coolest feature right now about them is the backwards compatibility. It's cool, you know, playing old games on Series X and PS5 and getting performance increases and resolution increases. I wish it was better backwards compatibility where they could carry everything over. But it's cool that it's there somewhat, but I think it could be better with having, you know, all the generations backwards compatible. But it's okay for what it is, and, you know, it's still cool, and I would definitely use it if I had it, and I think that's the best feature about them. But overall, I just think the Xbox Series X and PS5, I'm not impressed with either of them. I don't really care to get either of them. I have no hype or excitement or any interest for either of them because there's no games I give a shit about. The library is lackluster. There's no video games I care about, and I just think the library that is there right now for the PS5 and Series X, it's pretty weak. You know, there isn't any games I give a shit about on either of those consoles. And I'm not even going to count Resident Evil Village because it's not really a next-gen only game. That's only one game. You know, it's not really worth getting two consoles, let alone one of them, just for one game that's really not even next-gen only. It's cross-gen pretty much. I just have no interest in PS5 and Series X. So far, I'm just not impressed by them. I have no excitement for them. I have no interest in them. You know, I don't see a reason to get them. There's no interesting games on them. There's no games right now on them or games coming out that I give a shit about. There's nothing that gets me hyped or excited or pumped up that I want either of the consoles, or I just have no excitement. I have no excitement and no desire for the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X, and I don't care to get either of them because the library just isn't there. The library right now of games just isn't there. There's no games I care about, no games to give a shit about. I don't really care about what's coming out. I don't really care about what's out, and I don't really care about what is rumored to come out in the future. You know, there's that rumor of Resident Evil 4 remake That's probably the only thing I could care about. But then again, that's a remake of a game that's already great, and who knows if they'll do that right, because it's going to be very hard to remake Resident Evil 4. I think it'll be impossible for them to do a good job, because that game was just too good. So, yeah, those are my overall thoughts on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Let me know what you think of them. As it stands, like I said, I don't mind the designs. Backwards compatibility is cool. They're both $500 each, but I just don't see a point in getting them, and I just don't think they're worth getting, and I don't really have an interest in either of those consoles, because I just don't think there's enough there to get me excited or to get me hyped for either of them, because the library of games is fucking lackluster. There's nothing I give a shit about. And even the first party lineup is included that as well. Like in terms of exclusives on the Series X and PS5, the lineup sucks too. I just don't care for anything on either PS5 or Series X. The library is lackluster. There's nothing I'm excited for or hyped for, nothing I care about, and it just makes me not have a desire to get either of those consoles, and that's how I feel. I hope it changes. I hope some cool stuff comes out where I can actually care about them, but as it stands, I don't give a shit about either of these consoles. The library sucks, and there's nothing I care about, there's nothing to really look forward to. It's just nothing I give a shit about. I mean, last year's E3 was fucking trash. I didn't care about anything from E3 I just realized I messed up at the beginning of this video. I said the consoles came out last year. No, they came out in 2020. I forgot that it's 2022. Damn, time flies. But yeah, the PS5 and Series X came out in 2020, not 2021. So let me correct that. Those consoles came out in 2020, not 2021. So I am pretty late on this, because the consoles came out in 2020, not 2021. Excuse me on that. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts. I have no interest in either of them. I hope it improves and more shit comes out that I care about, but I don't know if it'll happen. Because E3 last year was pretty shit, and I didn't give a shit about anything at E3. It was a waste of fucking time. I know some people say that a lot of console launches are pretty slow and boring, but I don't know, man. I think this is the worst one we've had yet. Not only to the global chip shortage, but the lackluster library. I mean, now we're in year, what, 2 or 3 technically, I don't know, of these new consoles in 2022, and things don't seem to be getting better, you know? I mean, even in the 360 generation, you had Dead Rising 1 in 2006, Gears of War 1 in 2006, already 2 great games really early within the 360. I mean, when I got a 360, I had stuff to play. There was stuff to play, you know? I feel like past console generations, when they launched, or even somewhat after the launch, there was something to play, you know? But I just don't feel the same for PS5 and Series X. I feel like this is the worst, so far it's the worst console launch ever, and the worst console generation ever, because I don't give a shit about the library, and it's not appealing enough for me to even want either of these consoles, you know? And I think it's the worst console generation so far, by far. On top of that, you have all the crappy business practices and broken games and patches, you know, and that shit to mention. But yeah, I don't want it to go on any longer. Those are my overall thoughts on the PS5 and Series X. PS5 and Series X. That's what I think of both of the machines. Maybe I'll get them one day if there's some good amount of interesting games that comes out. But as it stands, I don't give a fuck about either of them, because the library just isn't there, you know. And I don't remember it being this bad in the past. I don't remember it being this dry. You know, even the 8th generation had something. Even though Dead Rising 3 doesn't hold up Xbox, at least in the 8th generation there was Dead Rising 3. There was at least something, even though it wasn't amazing. I don't know. It's just that's all I gotta say about PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Peace.